Dwarves go too far, a voice shouted. Sabrina turned. One of the yahoos, who only moments ago had been crumpled on the floor, was now back on his feet. His friends had joined him. You don't want any of this, monkey boy, Mr. Six said. We might be small, but we'll lay the smackdown on all of you. The yahoos had a high-pitched, sadistic laugh, just like the hyena Sabrina had once seen on a Discovery Channel documentary. We take tunnels ours, they cried. Mr. One stepped forward. Much to Sabrina's amazement, he moved into a fighting stance identical to one she had often seen Daphne take. It was an attack position that Snow White had taught the little girl in her Bad Apple self-defense class. The little man gestured to the yahoos. Come get some. Then he and the 5 other dwarves bowed to their opponents, as if they were in a martial arts movie. Daphne ran to join them before Sabrina could stop her. Present your warrior faces, Mr. One shouted. The 6 dwarves and Daphne crinkled up their faces, roared like lions, and launched into an attack. The yahoos were twice as big, and, Sabrina guessed, 10 times as strong, but the dwarves were fast and nimble. They leaped and flipped like kung fu masters, avoiding blows and delivering painful kicks to their opponents' faces. Daphne was in the midst of the fight, punching and kicking, though far less gracefully than the little man. Sabrina had to stop her. This was why Daphne had to quit the family business. Someone always got hurt, and Sabrina wasn't going to let it be her sister. But before she could act, she felt a tap on her shoulder. Sabrina spun around and found Cobweb hovering over her. Was anyone injured? He asked. It's over, Sabrina stammered, preparing to defend herself. Mustard Seed has promised you a fair trial. Turn yourself in. I did not kill Oberon, Cobweb said. Stop lying, Oberon said you did it. If you don't come with us now, we're going to catch you and your Scarlet Hand buddies die, and your Scarlet Hand buddies too. My what? Don't play dumb with me. You know you're involved with them. You left their mark on Oberon's body. Child, I have no idea what you are talking about, Cobweb said. I'm not in any group and I didn't kill Oberon. Moth spotted the dark fairy. Murderer! She cried. She reached into her pocket and took out a small flute similar to the one Sabrina had seen Puck use many times. It summoned a tiny flying army of pixies he called his minions. Moth blew a few light notes and shoved it back into her pocket. Suddenly, a wave of little lights hit Cobweb in the chest. It surrounded him and collectively slammed him into a nearby wall. Sabrina could hear the wind fly out of his lungs. Granny grabbed the fairy girl by the arm and shook her. What are you doing, Moth? The old one cried. Make them stop. Moth refused and pulled away, but Cobweb fought off the little army and ran up the station stairs with the pixies in pursuit. Moth screamed and raced after them. We have to stop her, Granny said to the group. Wait, Daphne! Sabrina cried. She lost track of her sister in the confusion. She spotted her celebrating with the dwarves. Together they had successfully beaten the yahoos back into the tunnels. Sabrina raced over to her sister, clapped her hand around Daphne's arm, and dragged her up the station steps, with Granny and their friends following behind. Daphne shouted, Hey, let me go! But Sabrina ignored her, so the little girl gave up and waved goodbye to the dwarves instead, who were still celebrating their victory over the yahoos. Bye! Thanks! Daphne called. I'll tell Mr. 7 you said hello. Tell him I want my $20, Mr. 2 cried. Good luck, daughters of Veronica, the little man shouted. When the girls reached the surface, Cobweb was gone. Moth paced nearby, screaming in rage. We've lost him again! I don't know who you're screaming at, Mr. Hempstead said angrily. That psychotic little display of yours was why he escaped. You blame me? Moth shouted. How dare you talk to me in such a manner? Child, Mr. Canis roared. You have tested my patience long enough today. He leaped forward, talons already drawn, as if he prepared to rip the fairy to shreds. Wolf! Hempstead shouted, stepping in between Moth and the old man. Back away. Cass eyed Hamster for several moments. I can see you in there, mongrel, Hamster said. You come out and you'll get more of what the three little pigs gave you before. Something inside of Canis seethed, but it did what it was told. Most of the old man's wolf-like features shrank away. Hamster turned and addressed everyone. We need to regroup here, folks. We're trying to catch Cobweb, not kill him. He looked at Moth. And we shouldn't be fighting among ourselves. If anyone can't walk as a team, she should go back to the hotel. Because to be honest, you're in the way. But if you want to catch our suspect, and he's only a suspect right now, then let's start walking together. Bess gave Hamster an admiring look and a squeeze on the arm. Moth, however, gave the portly ex-policeman an angry scowl and muttered something offensive under her breath. Look, he left footprints in the snow, Daphne said, finally pulling free of her sister. Daphne Grimm, well done, Mr. Hempstead said. If we follow these prints, they'll lead us right to him. Everyone nodded, even Moth, and they set out to follow the tracks. As they walked, Sabrina tried to engage her sister. That was stupid of you to get into that fight, she said. You're stupid, Daphne said. You could have been hurt. Why would you take such a risk? I'm going to have to take bigger risks now that I'm on my own, Daphne replied. Sabrina stopped in her tracks and watched as her sister hurried to catch up with Mr. Canis, who was leading their group. Granny joined Sabrina and gave her a sad smile. This is her choice, Liebling. So I should just let her get killed? Granny shook her head. As long as I'm around, I won't let that happen. The prince led into Battery Park. In warmer weather, the park will be filled with tourists waiting for the boats to the Statue of Liberty and Ellis Island. Now it's almost empty. The Staten Island Ferry, a commuter boat that took people to the city's remote island borough, docked nearby as well, and it was into the ferry terminal that Cobweb's tracks led. Sabrina helped grandmother up the snow-covered ramp to the waiting room inside. There drew many stares from the terminal staff. Sabrina realized that most were gazing at Mr. Canis, all 7 feet of him. Look, there's Cobweb, Moth shouted. Sabrina turned in the direction that the ferry girl pointed, only to see a boat pulling away from the dock. Cobweb sat on the railing, looking back at them. His face was grim and cold. I'll get him, Moth said as the fairy wings popped out of her back. Granny snatched her arm and held the girl back. We'll wait for the next boat. Moth reluctantly retracted her wings. By the time we get to Staten Island, Cobweb will be long gone, Daphne said. You have bigger problems than that, a rough voice said from behind them. Sabrina turned around and saw a half-dozen men with skin the color of copper and jet black hair coming toward them. Their leader had dark eyes as fierce as any she had ever seen. He spoke again. You know as well as I do that ferries are not welcome docks controlled by Sinbad the sailor. Sabrina instinctively stepped between her sister and the stranger. She'd read the Arabian Nights recently, researching genies that might help her rescue her parents. The story of Sinbad was fresh in her memory. He'd gone on 7 voyages, and each trip had nearly killed him, though he had seen some fairly amazing things, including ogres, genies, and fish disguised as massive islands. He killed hordes of monsters too. She didn't remember him as a villain, but she learned the hard way that sometimes the good guys switched sides. Is that so? Moth said angrily to Sinbad. Well, what are you going to do about it? The sailor's men pulled nasty-looking daggers out of their coats. No fairies on the ferry, Sabrina said. No fairies on the ferry, Sinbad said. Oberon may have been able to force us to pay his lousy taxes, but he's dead. I'm not about to let some other fairy come in and take our hard-earned money. We're not fairies, Daphne said. We're detectives, and we're trying to find the person who killed Oberon. Sinbad cocked an eyebrow. Praise be, can it be you? Can it be that I am in the presence of Veronica Grimm's children? Daphne nodded, and the men put their daggers away. I am honored to meet you, Sinbad said. It was a dark day in my heart when your mother vanished. What brings you here? The fairy who killed King Oberon is on the boat that just left. Granny Rhoda said. Sinbad looked at his men and looked back at the group. I may be of some assistance, he said, and led everyone to the next docking station. He took out a key, unlocked a huge door, and slid it open. Behind it was a second ferry boat. You've got your own boat? Hamster asked. I am the harbour master for the Staten Island ferry, Sinbad said proudly. He helped them aboard and led them up a flight of steps to the bridge. He started the boat's engine as his men untied its mooring lines from the dock. When the boat was free, the men shouted up to their captain, and he pulled down a lever, easing the ferry away from the dock with expert care. In no time, they were cruising away from Manhattan in pursuit of Cobweb. Chasing a mother, is that not dangerous work for young girls? Sinbad asked. We're Grimms, this is what we do, Daphne said. Sinbad laughed. Your mother used to say the same thing whenever I had to help her out of one of her many close calls. Not that I minded. I have to admit I myself was much smitten with her. You had a crush on our mother? Daphne asked. I'd hardly call it a crush. I was head over heels, to be honest. Veronica was quite a woman, and I've known a great many in my day. She was brilliant and strong, if a bit stubborn. Sounds like someone I know, Granny said, flashing Sabrina a smile. I asked her to run away with me nearly 1,000 times, but she always rebuffed me. She said she had eyes for only one man. I suppose it was your father she spoke of. The fates were smiling on him the day he met her. Sabrina was livid. Hearing him talk about her mother this way was infuriating. Sinbad noticed and smiled. Little one, allow a man to dream. Your mother never took my advances seriously. Most of the time she was too busy with her big plan to fix our community to even notice I was flirting. One of Sinbad's crew raced to the bridge. He looked nervous and sweaty. My lord, we have a big problem. What is it? Pirates! Again, Sinbad scowled. It is the third time this week. Pirates? What pirates? Sabrina cried, but Sinbad rushed out onto the deck with his man. The Grimms and their friends dashed after him and found the entire crew standing on one side of the boat, peering at something through binoculars. Sabrina snatched a pair of binoculars from the nearest sailor and scanned the horizon. Sailing near the Statue of Liberty was a boat with a black flag waving in the wind. The flag had skull and crossbones on it. You've got to be kidding me, Sabrina said, handing the binoculars to her grandmother. Just then, an enormous explosion could be heard coming from the pirate boat. A moment later, something big crashed into the water not far from the ferry. They dare fire on me, Sinbad, master of the sea? Turn this ship toward them and see how brave they are with our cutlasses at their throats, the captain cried. His men cheered and several raced to the helm. The ferry made an abrupt turn and headed straight for the approaching pirates. Turn the ship around, Mr. Kenneth said. We're after a killer. We have no interest in your petty tough war. You have nothing to fear, my large friend, praise be. I'm Sinbad. I have faced these foul vermin before. Of course, maybe we should arm you. Men, hand out some steel. The men shoved large swords into everyone's hands. What are we supposed to do with these? Sabrina asked, alarmed. They're quite useful for killing pirates, Sinbad said as he hurried back to the bridge. I don't think I'm allowed to kill pirates, Daphne called after him. She looked up at Granny Rhoda. Am I? The old woman shook her head, collected the children's swords, and handed them to one of Sinbad's men. Another of the crew rushed toward them with life jackets. What do we need these for? Hamster asked as there was another loud splash off the side of the boat. In case we had to jump. That seems to be the end of this video. I'll send more later. Goodbye.